Oh, my God.
It's just an extraordinary thing. And there were some, I think, some fairly well-intended people that just got flummoxed, but there were some that knew exactly what they're doing. And I would include in that John Boehner and the Senate Minority Leader, Mr. McConnell, and, of course, Harry Reid knew very well what he was doing.
Oh, yeah. Mitch McConnell 2 weeks ago proposed just giving the power of the purse to Obama. That's not his power to give.
Right.
I mean,
exactly.
he's speaking for all. I mean, he can't do that. I mean, Larry, Pratt, is this not classical treason? I mean, this is changing the form of our government.
Well, we had to change the form of the government because we can't stop spending like drunks locked inside the liquor store.
Oh, man.
They refuse to deal with the problem, and so they create another totally different, humongous problem. And meanwhile, the cuts for this year are going to be less than 2 days' expenditure.
Oh, yeah, I've gone through the numbers. Most of it's in the next 10 years, and they never do that.
And that's what we call here fairy dust. It doesn't exist. It's not going to happen.
It's like the Easter Bunny. Well, Larry Pratt, I mean, listen, this has all been done by design. We have the 10 governors now speaking for the states, the Governor's Council. We have the Rural Affairs run by the Defense Department and Homeland Security. You heard me earlier as I introed you. We have the ATF coming out and saying, well, we're just going to order you to do things because we couldn't get this law passed. And
they actually call them demand letters. We're demanding that you give us the information. And if the dealer doesn't, well, they've had his neck in a noose ever since he got his license, and they can pull that license.
But that's my point, Larry. I've never seen such a bum rush of tyranny. On every front, they're just doing whatever they want.
Mm-hmm.
I think they really are going for dictatorship. And I don't mean a dictatorship of Obama. You know, he'll leave probably. But a dictatorship of the bureaucracy and the special interest. I mean, have you ever seen anything this off the chart?
Well, like that family that I guess it was actually the kid that was raising a lot of bunnies, and they faced a monster fine from the Department of Agriculture because they didn't have the department's permission. There shouldn't be a Department of Agriculture. Where's that in the Constitution? Fining a little boy millions of dollars because he had rabbits breeding like, well, rabbits?
Well, but I mean, Larry, I mean, I'm asking you, have you ever seen such a brazen move? How would you describe this Council of 13?
This is something that even FDR wouldn't have thought he could have gotten away with. This is such a brazen strike at our liberty that, and you know that Boehner and McConnell are going to appoint wusses. So it's not going to be, Michelle Bachmann as one of the House representatives. It's, a bitter ender that is against all this wild spending. They're going to put reasonable people on there. And these reasonable people will be the ones that continue to lead us into dictatorship.
Well, they don't have the power. It's not in our Constitution to create a super Congress and say, we will originate the legislation from the top. I mean, this is classic tyranny.
Yep.
This is a larger version of Quartzsite, where the police chief fires the mayor when he can't and fires 80% of the cops when they don't go along with it. This is a microcosm of these men up there transferring more power to themselves with Obama, and the White House is pleased as punch. Larry, we're seeing an acceleration here, and disagree if you disagree, but we're seeing a massive acceleration. Week to week, it gets crazier. Who would have ever thought corrupt government-run health care with the president's buddies exempt? Who would have ever thought ATF telling gun shops to do things that aren't the law? Who would have ever thought the ATF shipping guns to Mexico to blame the Second Amendment? Who would have ever thought wars in Libya with al-Qaeda now recognized at the U.S. Embassy as the official government, literal, admitted, real al-Qaeda? Who would have ever thought that we'd see all of this? I mean, we're living in the twilight zone.
Yeah, we got chickens coming home to roost. We've had the schools teaching us for years and years that we live in a democracy. Well, if people think that way, then the assumption is when I win an election, I can do anything I want because I won and I got the votes. That's not the way it works in a republic, and people don't understand that there are barrier limits. That's what the Constitution's all about. It is not alive. It is not breathing. It is there to chain you down when you work for me in the government.
Well, Larry, here's my question to you. This is the big issue. And how did we end up with a vote with the majority of the Republicans here voting for this? It was a majority of Republicans, in fact, I'm looking for the vote count here, I'll pull up in a minute, who went for this.
Yeah, it was only about 69 that opposed it. And since there's, 240, give or take, Republicans, that means a humongous number went for it. And a pretty substantial part of the Dems went for it as well. And the ones that didn't were believing their own left-wing propaganda that somehow they were getting thrashed. Well, they'll take a deep breath one of these days and realize, hey, we just pulled off a coup d'etat. Not bad.
But this proves continuity of agenda. Bush with the banker bailout, Obama continues it. I mean, they just continue on where the other one left off.
They're part of the ruling class, and yeah, there's a Republican group of the ruling class and a Democrat part, and there are some differences, but by and large, except for some of the newbies and people who have been around for a while, like Bachman and Steve King, you only got about 65 or so members of the House of Representatives that have any idea what a republic means, what a vote needs to look like if it's going to be a constitutional vote. And the rest of the 435 members of that Congress apparently don't have a clue. We're talking about, well, there would be a few senators in there too, maybe less than 20%, and all the rest, some 80%, are clueless. They think they can do whatever they want. Well, I think we need to have some political reprisals on these people. I mean, we need to be talking about see you in November.
Well, I agree, and I'm here to tell you, anyone that voted for this is either an absolute criminal traitor or doesn't know how to boil water, doesn't know how to tie their shoelaces. And so the 174 Republicans that voted for this absolutely must be removed. The 95 Democrats absolutely must be removed. The vote, 174 Republicans, 95 Democrats, for anybody. And it was mainly Tea Party people that voted against it on the Republican side. And we have a New York Times editorial today, and I'm going to read it later, that actually says the Tea Party are terrorists. They are the new terrorists. Go after them, or, basically arrest them.
Alex, that's serious, because when we start seeing language like that used, what is the proper thing to do to a terrorist? Well, to kill him. So they're using the kind of words that Hitler and Lenin and Idi Amin and Pol Pot were using. They're doing what Alinsky teaches. They are particularizing, personalizing, and marginalizing so that the enemy is really an enemy, and he needs to be liquidated, exterminated, just like dictators have done everywhere.
Absolutely. They're selling the idea in the New York Times, and I'm going to read the quote here in a moment, that anybody who actually wants to cut government, audit the Federal Reserve as a terrorist. Here it is out of the New York Times. It says, "Can't we do this right?" Thomas L. Freeman. And here's the quote: "Alas, at the Tea Party, it is so lacking in any aspiration for American greatness." Oh, yeah. So dominated by the narrowest visions of our country and so ignorant of the fact that it was not tax cuts that made America great. Oh, really, that's what was fought over. But our unique public-private partnerships, across the generations. If sane Republicans do not stand up to the Hezbollah faction in their midst, the Tea Party will take the GOP on a suicide mission. No American politician was more allergic to debt or taxes than Thomas Jefferson. But he also, and it goes on from there. But listen, here's the bad news. Debt bill passes Senate, headed to Obama. Unsure of AAA USA credit rating will suffer from the spectacle. So the idea is anybody that doesn't want to increase taxes and go deeper into debt, you're the ones hurting America, not the people that did this, Larry.
In a sense, I guess we are terrorists. By that very article that you were reading, you can tell he is terrorized. It terrorizes the statists to think that we might take some of their power away and put them into the constitutional box they were intended to stay within. That does bring terror to them. They can't think of living by producing anything. They have to live by taking from all the rest of us. And, you know, I think the rest of us are just about finished being taken. We've had it.
Well, that is a good point. At the end of the day, we are really getting a front row seat to total corruption and tyranny, and the wake-up's only accelerating. Larry, I drive around Austin. I see Infowars.com stickers everywhere, but not just that, not just Ron Paul stickers everywhere. I see huge things on the sides of nice cars, you know, junky cars, you name it. Legalize the Constitution, you know, arrest the politicians. Folks are angry.
Yes, and I think we're going to stay angry. I think it was not just the town halls that got us to a point where we had to deal with our elected officials, but Wisconsin, I think, was something that stirred the whole country. This thing now, I believe, is going to continue our agitation. Yeah, we're going to stay angry. Stay
there, Larry Pratt. I want to do one more segment on the raft of anti-gun legislation that is waiting, that now can pass without amendment or without filibuster. The big attack's coming, folks. Stay with us. Yep, the Senate passes the Council of 13 dictatorship. A new form of government is now in place in the United States. And it's been done in a little lawyerly packaged way to look nonchalant, like it's no big deal, camouflaging how deadly dangerous this Trojan horse is. And now the president is saying that this is just the first step and is set to give a speech. And they've cheered in the House, trillions more in debt. The dollar began plunging again. And gold exploded to an all-time new super high of $1,642.70 an ounce. $1,642 plus dollars. Now, Larry Pratt, in the last 4 or 5 minutes, I want to encourage folks to sign up for your legislative updates. I was driving home at 6 o'clock last night and literally almost ran off the road when I was actually at a red light reading it, but then did get upset driving home and actually shot a video while I was driving and uploaded it to YouTube. When I read your alert, called the office, had them check. Folks can sign up for the free legislative alerts at gunowners.org, or, God forbid, get a membership and actually support the only real, no-compromise Second Amendment group. But continuing, what are the new anti-gun pieces of legislation that folks should know about that now can't be amended or filibustered?
Well, they've been talking a lot about putting people that have been on these no-fly lists, terrorist watch lists, people that haven't been adjudicated of anything. This is a law enforcement tool, but now they're saying, well, that's enough to deny somebody their right to keep and bear arms. And there are bills that have been discussed to do just that. Frank Lautenberg, the gun grabber from New Jersey in the U.S. Senate, is a longtime supporter of this kind of thing. And this is the very kind of thing that I can see coming in some little amendment from the Committee of 12. And you know, what are we going to do about it? We can't amend it. We need a supermajority, like passing a treaty, to overturn it. They pretty well got themselves where they can do anything they want.
And again, you are calm about this. You're professional, the head of a huge patriotic organization. But I mean, at a certain point, Larry, we got to start jumping up and down. I mean, you've got Rahm Emanuel, you've got them all. They've introduced bills, as you know, where magically you get on a list and can't own guns anymore. No conviction, no arrest. The president's talking about an executive order to do that. The ATF's doing things that aren't under law.
Right.
These are lawless crooks. I mean, they got caught shipping guns into Mexico, and they've got a bunch of other bills coming in, and now we're wide open. I mean...
And you mentioned Emanuel. This is the guy, after all, that celebrated the Alinsky notion that you never let a good crisis go to waste. And how did they get this passed? Well, they had us all breathless that the country, if we didn't have something happening by today, was going to default. That was a lie. And they continued to use it even after members of Congress explained many times, no, we don't default. We do bring in 60% of what we're spending, and that's more than enough to pay for this stupid interest that we keep racking up with the other 40%. They would not refrain from using the word, and they stampeded, I think, a lot of the members of the Congress into this. Well, we got to do something. Well, why don't you just put a gun to your head? That would be doing something. Shut up. It is absolutely enraging. I'm so mad I could spit. It's just over the top what these folks have done. They're going to be going home for August recess. We need to go and very politely, sternly lecture them that they are traitors. They have violated the Constitution. If they did vote for it, now there were some, be careful. Don't go after the ones that voted right. Tell them that what they have done is to transform the structure of American government, and unless we undo what they've done, America is never